When I came into the business, we used to think that the year 2000 was space age. We were in the 80s. Oh, that's space age. Oh, that's space age. We imagined the Jetsons. We imagined all kinds of stuff. And it was space age. And guess what? Here we are in 2025, a quarter of a century, and we're still everything's still the same, just a little bit different on that. But anyways, good morning, Lucia. You're the first one that appears here on my. You know what? We got into this thing called sales, real estate sales. In real estate sales, a lot of times we come in and we come in with faith. I got the faith that I'm going to make it in real estate. I believe that I can do good. I have good talent. I'm a nice person. I'm an honest person. I should be a real estate agent. I should be, be able to, people should like me. Great. We come in with all the tools that we need, but then we don't execute them. We don't execute those tools because for some reason we just go ahead and just not use them. I'll give you guys an example. The story of David and Goliath. Let's go back. It's in the Bible. David and Goliath. Who was Goliath? Goliath was a big guy everybody feared. Nobody could go against Goliath. And then all of a sudden, a small guy, David says that he'll go ahead and face Goliath. And everybody kind of laughed. Everybody kind of, come on, who is this guy? On that, it's the same thing like in real estate. Remember when you decided to go ahead and get your real estate license? You probably had people that wanted to convince you not to go ahead and get into the business. You know what? Don't get into the business. Why? I have a friend that tried it. He failed. I have a friend that used to be in it for a while and he failed. Fail. And the only one that believes is you. You say, no, I'm still going to get into the real estate business. And sometimes we go in, we don't prepare for it, and we fail. That's why we have the highest failure rate in real estate. And not just in real estate, in sales. In sales, anybody that's in commission-driven, life insurance, solar, mortgage and real estate, we are in sales. We're independent contractors. And you know what? If we don't stay motivated, you know what? All of a sudden, we don't go ahead and we're going to make it. So remember, you came in on faith. You got your license. People told you, hey, don't get into it. I told you so. I told you so. You're not going to get a normal check anymore. See, here's the thing. You got to be abnormal to get into sales because there's not going to be a paycheck, a daily paycheck. I remember I was living in Chino Hills. I bought my first house and, I was already, was going to have a kid and all that. And all of a sudden, people told me, Mike, aren't you afraid that you're not getting a regular check, like everybody else, that you're on commission? You're not afraid. And you think about it. Okay, I'm on a regular paycheck. This is person A is on a regular paycheck that goes. And guess what? I saw a post saying that if we live paycheck to paycheck, we're only one step from poverty. Can you imagine? I think Warren Buffett said that. If you're paycheck to paycheck, you're one step of poverty. That's why you got to have other revenue streams. That's what Warren Buffett said, a billionaire on that. And you know what? And I said, well, wait a second. Why do you make that comment? Why? I'm living on a 3,000 square foot home in Chino Hills on the Rolling Ridge area. I got a really, really nice property. I'm driving a 1982 Cadillac Eldorado, a silver one. Remember, have you guys ever seen the Eldorados on that? So I had a Cadillac Eldorado. Things were going good, and somebody was still questioning if I'm not scared to not have a normal paycheck paid out every other week. So if you think about it, the first thing that David had, he trusted in God. He had faith. You guys got to trust in the real estate system. Trust in God that you're going to apply yourself in the real estate system so you can go ahead and go through the fundamentals on that. Another thing with David, he had obedience. Follow God's will, not out for pride. Think about it. Do we come into the real estate business because of our ego? I think I had probably one of the second biggest ego in the world. And you know what? A lot of times, if we're obedient, we got people, I tell people, do this, do that, and you will succeed. And people try to do their own thing. No, my system. I'm going to create my own system. Why create your own system when the systems already exist? You just got to go ahead and learn it from old farts like me that been around 41 years to go ahead and learn it on that. Think about it. And then we gotta, if you look on the story of David and Goliath, David had courage. He stand up to Goliath. He says, you know what, I am going. He had trust in God. He followed God's will. And you know what? He stood up to Goliath. Okay, you came into real estate. You had faith in God. You came in. You got your license. You passed it the first time, the second time, the third time. It doesn't matter when you passed it. The day you passed it, your license doesn't say there, oh, congratulations, you passed the real estate exam on the third time, and you got low scores before. It doesn't. It's just a clean license that gives you the opportunity to succeed on that. I only see one person, Lucia, on here, and make some comments, because once you make some comments, Unica Estates just came in. Good morning. So think about that. And then you get into real estate. With David and Goliath, he had to prepare. He knew he was going against Goliath, and he had to prepare for the worst. So what did he did? He picked up 5 rocks. What did the rocks signify? I don't know. But he got the rocks. He looked at them. They had to be a certain size. And you know what? He had his ammunition. We get into the real estate, and we lack the faith of real estate. We don't follow what our broker tells us to do, and we start losing our courage. So it stops us from preparation, because the ones that prepare are making a lot of money. You got your Vickies just closing, your Lilianas, your Josues. Everybody's closing, making presentations on any type of field. If you're a good lender, you're doing the same thing. If you're a real estate agent, great. If you're selling life insurance, whatever type of sales, you start to prepare. And how do you prepare? David went ahead and prepared with the 5 rocks. He had the faith of God. He listened and followed God's will, and he started preparing the 5 rocks that are going to go ahead and help him go to battle against Goliath. But we come in, and instead of the 5 rocks, we got 5 different things to prepare to go ahead and succeed. Hey, am I going to be a door knocker? Boom, 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 boom. Have you thought about selling? Am I going to be a cold caller? Hello, this is Michael Yoke. Have you thought about selling? Da, da, da. Are you going to be a mail outer? Are you going to be an open houser? Are you going to go ahead and come in social media and be a social media expert? Well, see, David, I'm assuming David had the 5 rocks, but he still hadn't picked the one rock that he was going to use first. So think about it. Think about this. Yourself, you come into the real estate business, you have your license, you're ready to go. You don't know what you're going to like because you don't know your personality. Now that I've been in the business a long time, I'm able to talk to people. You're an analytical. You like to see numbers. You're an entrepreneur. You're, a driver. You're an amiable. You're an expressive. I'm an expressive. I like to express things and try to sell you with the words and also with the body language. We all have our gifts. And then we got to pick one. We got to keep one that we're going to go ahead and master. So I'm assuming that David, people were watching, I was in Mexico City and they were watching Back to the Future Part 3 and it was in Spanish and all that. And we're there lying down in the room. I'm watching the ending. And what's his name is gonna, he's gonna fight Biff's, uncle or grandfather, where they're gonna have a shootout, a draw on that. And the guy comes in, the guy from the mortuary, and he sizes him up. Why are you sizing him up? Because most likely you're gonna need a coffin to go ahead and, because this guy's gonna kill you. So all of a sudden, the fear is there. What is the fear? The fear in real estate is the fear of rejection. Rejection. People yelling at you. People threatening you. People saying, hey, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. The fear. Did David have fear? He had fear. But he had the trust of God. And everybody was watching and everybody was saying, I'm sure there were side bets going in. What do you think, Larry? I don't know, Mike. I give it to Goliath. He's too little, this, and that. And the side bets were there. People were saying, I give it, do you want to take the over or under that he kills him and that Goliath kills David under 5 minutes or over 5 minutes? I'm sure all that was happening out there and all that. And it's the same thing when you're in real estate. People will go ahead, your own friends, your own family will say, you know what, Michael Yoke, I give him 6 months and he'll be out of the business. I give him a year. I give him this. I give him that. And guess what, people? The odds are against. So remember, you got to have faith, trust in God when you come into real estate. Be obedient, take his will, be honest, present, do it for a good cause, sell the American dream. You know what? I was figuring out why I felt naked. I don't have my rings. You know what? Wow. I was falling behind on that. So guess what? I got to get used to it. I got to improvise on that. Have the courage to stand up for the rights to help people, achieve the American dream on that. And you got to prepare. What are you going to do? What is your major? David and Goliath, David again, he had 5 rocks. That was his game plan on that, the stones on that. And we have to prepare and say, which way are we going to tackle the real estate world? So that way we can succeed on that. Well, guess what? As the story goes, David got the first rock. All he needed was one rock. Boom! Right in the forehead. Boom! Goliath was done. And David became a hero. He became a hero on that because he had faith. He believed in God. He obeyed God. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. It was the will of God that gave him the strength to have the courage to prepare and to move forward. Because you know what? God's provision, God always provides. If you come into the real estate world and you have faith and you obey on trainings, and you know what? And you get courage. I'm going to go against, dark stuff, negativism, everything. People are going to go ahead and, go ahead and try to take you down on that. Say you're no good in that. And if you have the preparation and you go forward, then you know what? God's going to provide for you guys. God will open the doors, will open everything if your heart is in a good place. And guess what? If you move forward on that. So I wanted to share that little story that, an envision that came in my mind. And I says, you know what? Real estate is like David and Goliath, and we got to go ahead and be able to move forward. So think about it. What is your Goliath today? What is your Goliath? Oh, it's cold out there. I don't want to go ahead and go prospecting. Oh, it's too hot out there. That's a fear. Putting Goliath in is a fear, folks. So what are the fears that you have in real estate? What are people going to say that Michael Yoka didn't make it? We knew he was going to fall. See, here's the thing. 41 years in the business, people have been waiting for me to fall. People have been waiting. And guess what? If you hold a real estate license, your friends, your family, your enemies are waiting for you to fall. And then they're going to say, if you do fall, you're going to go ahead and they're going to say, I told you. I knew Mike was not going to make it. He was just a dreamer. He was just this. I knew him from high school, this and that. And I knew he wasn't going to make it. And you know what? He didn't. It took 41 years for him to collapse. And all of a sudden, but I knew. And you know what? Those are just people that probably haven't done nothing in their lives, but they don't want you to succeed. They don't want you to succeed, And then eventually you break through. I know a lot of people. I see people from high school. I see people from the beginning. I see people that worked for me in the 90s. And they say, oh, Mike, I remember when we worked in the 90s. I knew you were always going to make it. I knew you were always going to make it because you know what? You had the courage. You had the drive. You never stopped. But you know what? Most of them, they're only saying that because you've made it. Otherwise, they wouldn't say that. They would say, oh, Michael Yoka, you know what? He was once Century 21 and they kicked him out. He was once married and he went ahead and got a divorce. And you know what? And that's the way. What happens as you go through the turbulence of life for you to succeed? What is the reward that you want? The first thing we got to do is thank our Creator, man. You got to thank Him every day. You got to have faith that if you go through the process, the doors are going to open up and He's going to provide. Remember, He talks about the birds. They don't worry about eating, but they eat. But you know what? If we sit on our rear end and do nothing, then nothing's going to happen. We're human beings. We need to go through the process. We got to have faith. We got to have obedience. We got to have courage. We got to prepare and we got to believe that God will provide. Because if you do that, things are going to start moving forward on that. And I believe all that. So let me see. Lucia says, phone. Yep, it comes and goes on that. So I only got another minute or so, folks. So today is the first day of the rest of your life today. So start going out looking for business. Go after that house. If this house isn't going to provide a listing or a sale, go to another one. Go to another one. Go to another. The next one. The next one, it might happen. You know what? It could be the next one. And you just got to keep going, 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 going until it hits. Until it hits. You got to have patience. You got to keep going. You got to be thriving on there. Folks, you have to do that because otherwise, if you don't, you will die on the vine right there. So I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank God for giving me the pleasure of having this morning show to send out a message to you guys and all that.